Long before modern billionaires existed, there lived a man whose wealth surpassed imagination and reshaped the balance of power in Europe. His name was Jakob Fugger, a banker and merchant from Germany, whose influence quietly reached every royal court. He lived in the Middle Ages, a time without modern banks, stock markets, or global corporations to protect or regulate power. Yet his control over money shaped kings, emperors, and the fate of entire empires across the continent. Today, people compare his wealth to figures like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, trying to measure his fortune in modern terms. But Jakob Fugger's influence went far beyond numbers on paper or imagined net worth rankings. He controlled political decisions behind closed doors through loans, favors, and strategic pressure. He financed wars, coronations, and royal ambitions that changed the map of Europe. While kings wore crowns and commanded armies in public, Fugger controlled their debts in private. His story is not about luck, but about vision, strategy, and ruthless understanding of power. Jakob Fugger was born into a merchant family in Augsburg, Germany, far from royal palaces or noble titles. His family was not royal, but they were disciplined, ambitious, and deeply involved in European trade networks. From a young age, Jakob learned how money moved across borders and between powerful hands. He understood that information was power in a slow world where news traveled painfully slowly. While others waited weeks or months for news, he built networks of messengers and informants. He knew market prices, political tensions, and royal needs before others did. This gave him an advantage that no competitor could easily copy or challenge. He invested in mining operations across Europe, securing control over key resources. Silver and copper flowed steadily into his control from distant regions. Metals meant weapons, coins, and political power in a world driven by war and trade. Fugger did not only lend money to rulers and merchants. He lent influence, leverage, and survival to desperate kings. When emperors wanted thrones or needed armies, they came to Fugger for financing because no one else could provide such scale of support. He funded the election of Holy Roman emperors through carefully placed loans and alliances. In return, he received privileges, lands, monopolies, and exclusive mining rights. Governments depended on him to survive wars, rebellions, and political crises. Entire nations were trapped in debt to his banking house and could not act freely. Fugger became richer as conflicts continued and debts grew larger. War was tragic for people, but profitable for his financial empire. He mastered long-term strategy, a short-term world driven by urgent needs and fear. He invested where others feared risk, understanding that risk created leverage. He diversified his wealth across trade routes, mining operations, and high-level finance. When one sector slowed, another carried him forward without collapse. He understood the power dynamics between rulers and money better than rulers understood them. Kings needed cash more desperately, and bankers needed kings. This imbalance quietly made Fugger untouchable in political circles. Even nobles feared crossing him because their futures depended on his credit. His letters influenced political decisions across Europe more than public speeches. He shaped history without standing on battlefields or wearing armor. Jakob Fugger lived in luxury, while much of Europe struggled with poverty and instability. His palaces and estates stood in sharp contrast to the crowded streets outside. Yet he also funded hospitals, housing projects, and social foundations. This was partly charity and partly reputation management in a suspicious world. Power needs a public image to survive long-term pressure. He understood perception and narrative before modern public relations even existed. His wealth was so large that even the church depended on his financial support. He financed religious campaigns, political negotiations, and grand construction projects. His money reached into Rome itself, influencing decisions at the highest spiritual levels. No crown was truly safe without his approval or tolerance. But immense power always creates enemies and deep resentment. People accused Fugger of greed, exploitation, and profiting from human suffering. Critics said he grew rich while others bled in endless wars. His name became associated with shadow power and invisible control. Yet rulers continued to knock on his door because they had no alternatives. They were trapped in systems he helped design and dominate. The financial system he built was stronger than individual kings and councils. Fugger created one of the first true financial empires in European history, A private man influencing public destiny from behind closed doors. A merchant ruling over monarchs without wearing a crown. When Jakob Fugger died, his wealth and influence were unmatched in European history at that time. No single businessman had ever controlled so much economic power across borders. His company and financial networks continued to shape politics for generations. His financial methods became early models for future banking systems. He helped shape the modern idea of capitalism before the word existed. Power was no longer only in swords and armies on battlefields. It was in credit, debt, contracts, and control of resources. Fugger proved money could move history without firing a single shot, and history would often follow the flow of money. People today admire billionaires for innovation in technology and industry. But Jakob Fugger innovated power itself in a pre-modern world. He built financial systems before finance had rules or global regulation. He shaped politics without running for office or leading armies. He changed the relationship between rulers and money forever. His story forces us to question where real power truly lives. In crowns worn on heads or in capital stored in vaults. In armies marching in public or in accounts written in private. In public speeches or in silent contracts signed in secrecy. Fugger ruled silently from the shadows. He never needed to command armies or stand on battlefields. His money commanded outcomes long before battles were decided. He did not rule lands by force of weapons. He ruled futures by controlling credit and debt. Emperors feared losing battles and territories. Fugger feared losing leverage and strategic advantage. One fear ends empires, armies fail. The other builds empires quietly through finance. That is why Fugger outlived many kings in influence. His shadow remained long after his death. Today, his name is less known than modern billionaires on social media. But his impact on Europe was greater than most rulers of his time. He showed that wealth can be more powerful than weapons. That finance can shape history more quietly than war. That the richest man does not need a throne to rule. Jakob Fugger ruled from behind the scenes. His legacy lives in modern banking and political finance. He changed how power works in the world. His story is a reminder that money moves history. And those who control money shape the future.